Hey guys, welcome to today's show. So I've got a very special guest on. His name is Phil Robinson, and he's a great friend of mine. So Phil is one of those rare people who is as creative as he is strategic. And you rarely get that kind of combination. You get someone who's a strong leading on one side or another. But Phil, I think, is just a great combination of both. He works as a technology architect, but he's also super creative. He's written songs and he's also published a children's book. When I think of Phil, I think the word devotion comes to mind. He's just a man of devotion. And what I mean by that is that he brings passion to the projects that he's involved in and the activities that he's involved in as well. So he's a very deep thinker. We've had some great conversations and it's just great to have him here. So Phil, welcome.
Hi, thanks, Andy. Thanks for inviting me. Looking forward to this chat,
Brilliant.
as always.
Me too. So Phil, let's crack on. My first question to you is, Phil, can you briefly share some of the major crossroads that you've encountered maybe earlier on in your life, things that you have maybe considered are the defining moments for you?
Well, defining moments for me would be one. I grew up in a very traditional Christian background. My father was a minister, so being part of church from early would have shaped my life. That would have shaped the type of music I listened to, the way I play the piano, and so on. The second one would be the school I went to, especially the high school I attended, was the Combermere School. I grew up in Barbados, by the way, and that school is known for creating the rounded citizen. It is something that we boast about. So most of my friends and connections within that school would be people who would try their hands at various things. We end up being generalists as opposed to specialists in a sense. And the third thing, of course, that shaped me was leaving Barbados for a long term unexpectedly. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I did leave to study, but then I didn't expect to be away as long as I've been.
Sure. Okay. So the school you went to, you said, known for creating rounded citizens. That's a
Yeah.
great term. So that was so it was like an environment where you were given opportunities to explore lots of different areas and subjects. Is that what you mean?
Absolutely. Music was a big deal. You know, there were other schools which would have promoted the sciences or other arts, but music was quite a priority. Was given priority at the school. But we'd have various things that we could explore, or various areas we could explore, be they sciences, different languages, sport as well. You'd find quite a few people playing a number of sports at the school, like myself. I would have done quite a few, from chess to volleyball.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that kind of environment then, I guess really honed at, I don't know what age you were there from and to,
Yeah.
but then you were empowered to start making decisions. Uh, so what kind of things really you
Well,
favored?
I think at that age, I was there between 11 to 18, I guess. I did sixth form at that school as well, A levels. Um, I would say during that time, I never felt like a specialist. And that specialism only came maybe within my second year at university. So the only decisions I made were to just try my best at anything that was presented to me. Um, the the areas that I particularly enjoy would have been music. I did really well at music, and then some of the sciences, chemistry. I went on to study chemistry as well, and mathematics. I always had a bit of a love for that.
Oh, great. And then university, and was that in Barbados or was that the point where you moved?
Yes, I also did my first degree in Barbados at the University of the West Indies. I studied chemistry and computer science. And again, that was one of those stories where my big plan for life was to be a chemistry teacher. So I went to the university to study chemistry. Picked up computer science as a minor, just to get enough credits to complete the bachelor's. Um, but by second year, I recognized I actually enjoy computer science quite a bit, and I started connecting with people outside of university who were already working. I had a cousin who was team leading at a software dev company, and I had a summer with him, and I recognized, okay, there's actually a wider world of work and career than what I considered, than being a chemistry teacher with those lovely summers of writing music.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Sounds... So did you complete that degree then?
I
In...
did. Yeah. So I did complete. I actually ended up having because I became so interested in computer science, I ended up having a double major. So I double majored in chemistry and computer science, again, giving me the chance to go into a career with in either field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so obviously after that, then you had qualifications in both subjects.
Yeah.
Was it the computer science path that you chose to go down?
That was the one that seemed to choose me. So I had applied for a job as a chemistry teacher and quite get that didn't get that interview. But the first interview I got and the first offer I got was working as a programmer in an insurance company back in Barbados. That was my first job. And after I signed that contract, I then got the interview for the chemistry teacher as well. But
Oh,
I had decided, well, I've already accepted this one. And you never realize those little choices you make just define life.
mm,
Had there been a little bit of time between if I got in the first interview, I probably would have taken that, and who knows what life would have been like
right.
as Phil,
The big what if question.
Mr. Robinson, the chemistry teacher. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, and then what happened from there then, when you got your job and your programming?
Yeah. So from there, I spent a little time at the insurance company working as a programmer on their insurance systems. But then I recognized I actually want to work for a company who produces software as a product, as an output. And I got a nice opportunity with a small startup company. It was an offshore company. So offshore means that they can operate in the jurisdiction. So they could operate in Barbados, but they couldn't do business in Barbados. And it was an American company. So it meant we were exposed to a lot more cutting edge technology. We were pretty well paid, because it was an American company. And so I worked with them as a software developer, but then quickly moved into the space of leading software development. And also because I always had a passion for education, I was given the opportunity to teach at the university part time as well in a web development course. That was back in the 90s. So way at the beginning of when Java was now coming out.
Right.
Um, I would have developed a course and delivered a course to the university in that area.
Oh, wow. So you did get some aspect of the teaching
I did,
in.
yeah. And I really enjoyed it. And what I really enjoyed about it was after I delivered that course, the amount of students that came back and said, thanks for that course. It really opened up loads of opportunities for me. Because it was at that time in the late 90s, Java was really the hot topic, the hot buzzword, the hot programming language to learn. And that's what I taught. And loads of students were able to walk into jobs, some of them outside of Barbados as well, as a result of having a degree that included that course.
Wow. That's some strong impact that you've had there.
It's one of my proud moments, I would say.
Yeah.
But to be honest, while I had that role, I felt as though I was, in my mid 20s back then. I felt as though life was going a bit too quick. Suddenly moved into a management position and teaching, and I guess I started to have a bit of a imposter syndrome of here I am, a very young guy, earning some money, living at home with my parents, and teaching at university. I don't feel as though I've seen enough of the world, I've experienced enough, or I've even learned enough that I should be doing this. So that's when I decided to do a master's for 1 year, and I applied to Lancaster University. And again, the reason I applied to Lancaster was because the software engineering book and literature that we use when I studied computer science at University of West Indies was written by a professor from Lancaster University, Ian Somerville. So I always said, if I was to ever do any further studies in software engineering, I'd love to be taught by Ian Somerville. And he ended up being my tutor when I moved to Lancaster University and did a master's there for 1 year.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
that's the reason why you originally moved over to the UK
Yeah.
to study for a master's.
Yes.
And you did mention that there was something unexpected there. So you presumably were
So
planning to go back?
yeah, I was planning to go back. You've met Nicole, my
Mm-hmm.
wife.
Yeah.
Back then she wasn't my wife, but we were together. She was my girlfriend. We were going out and we had just started going out actually when I left to go away for a year. So we had that 1 year distant relationship, which was hard. But when I got back to Barbados, so when I planned to go back to Barbados, the company I was working for, this offshore company, had gone. So they ceased to exist. So I didn't have a job to go back to, and it felt it felt a bit difficult to find something that I would be satisfied with, because if you have a higher degree, I would have ended up going back into management, which wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to really, hone my skills and try out some of the things I would have learned on the masters. But while I was in Lancaster, I met a professor from a German institute who saw my work and saw my thesis and said, "You might be interested in working in the institute that I just came from, which was in Karlsruhe in Germany." And I chatted with the head of that institute, and they said they'd be interested in me coming over and working as a researcher with them. And then it just materialized that they came back to me and said, "Oh, it's not just us that are interested in having you. There's also a large company called SAP," which I was like, "Oh, wow, SAP is like one of the biggest software companies in the world." They said they're also starting up a research group, and your CV and experience and interests really fits the roles that they're looking for. Um, so it was like these two choices of go back to Barbados without a job, but a lovely girlfriend, lovely family, lovely food and beach, and find something to do, or move into a place that I've never been with at least the assurance of here's a job that's going to pay you and give you like an amazing experience.
Okay. And
Um,
how easy was it to make that choice?
it was not easy at all. Um, I had to do loads of conversation with my parents, with my in my circle, my friends from school and church, with Nicole as well, just discussing, the ramifications of that decision, the risk that were entailed. For many people in Barbados, a lot of Barbadians would not have traveled to Germany, but would have only, seen images or stereotypes of Germans and German culture and the war and that sort of stuff.
Mm.
Um, and that would have been the reference for making that move. People are saying that sounds like a dangerous place to go, especially for a young black man
Mm.
who doesn't speak German. You know, and to be honest, that made it a little bit more exciting for me at that age, where I said, "Well, I think this sounds like something I need to do." Then, um, and I spent 5 years in Germany, learned to speak German. Had a really really awesome time there. Had a great church as well. Still have great friends there. Um, and no regrets that I made that choice. And I still got married to Nicole, even though yeah, we had like 2.5 years of a distance relationship, not being in the same place,
Yeah.
which is no easy feat for.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that, like, how did your relationship survive and thrive through that period?
It I think it required real commitment from us both, especially with communication and correspondence, assurance and reassurance. Um, and then I did travel home at least twice or 3 times, at least twice a year. I would have traveled home, um, very early in the year, and then around Christmas or so, I would have traveled. Or
Mm,
sorry, summer and around Christmas, but
mm.
after. Yeah, so it just required patience, reassurance, that yes, we both want this, um, and also keeping busy. I think for both of us, being busy and having our different streams of life happening, but knowing at some point in time these rivers would come together, or that was the expectation. I think that's what kept us going.
That's great.
Yeah,
So you mentioned, Phil, before that when you were earlier on back in Barbados, you were teaching, working for a startup, quite a
yeah,
high up position. You had this sense of, hmm, like don't deserve to be here, or like this imposter syndrome.
yeah.
Did that did that issue still remain in Germany, or was that the time where things start to shift for you?
I think things shifted significantly in Germany for me. You know, I thought I was going to be an older person, and because it was a research institute, so loads of PhD students. I thought I would have been older, but everyone was around my age. Germans tend to go to school for a very long time, uh, and I guess everyone was brilliant. Just loads of very bright people. So there was a sense of intimidation there, um, but it was there was a strange sense of reassurance from my colleagues of working together, um, sort of celebrating and honoring the skills that I was bringing to the table. And we had some great publications together, um, always exploring new ideas and working at the edge of technology. I think that helped to validate my skills and my sense of working in the right area.
Mm,
So Germany did do a lot for me.
mm, that's great. Yeah, because it is. I mean, the fact that you were, I don't know if headhunted is the word, but you had somebody call you and say, "Hey, check out this opportunity in Germany." But not
Yeah,
only SAP also are interested in you.
yeah,
There's there's still that kind of struggle, if you like. Is there, like, with, can I do this? You start maybe questioning yourself. So the validation happened after you started to acclimatize to the environment and recognize that while you do bring value,
yeah,
you can bring things to the table, you can contribute.
yeah. I think yes, that's right. I mean, one thing that probably helped was completing my master's as well, and I completed. I got a really good grade for my thesis, and I was constantly validated by the lecturers around me, the great Somerville, who I revered. And that did help a lot when you have people around you that are validating you. And I always feel as though I need three types of friends: people who validate me, but people who challenge me, and then people who inspire me, who will show me something new that I might not have thought of. And I was getting all three of those in that scenario.
That's great.
Yeah.
So the 5 years in Germany, was that already preset, or did something happen that then caused you to?
That was our initial plan. I said "or" because in between, I I did go back to Barbados and got married to Nicole, so she joined me in year two in
Oh,
Germany. I did go to complete a PhD was sort of the plan, but I was working for SAP as well. So I was an industrial researcher and academic researcher, and also looking to do complete a PhD. So I didn't complete the PhD in the end, but within after that at that 5 year period where we did it was a sort of natural point for us to start thinking of, are we gonna just stay here for the long term, or are we gonna do something else? And what happened when it came up to around 5 years was one of the managers in SAP literally just walked on my desk and asked, "Would you be interested in moving to Northern Ireland?" Just out of the blue. Um, and I said, "I don't know. It never dawned on me, but um, I'll have a chat with my wife about it." And we chatted about it, and then said we'd have to go visit first. So we went over on a visit to Belfast, saw the new office that was being set up there, um, walked around the city, got a feel of it, and decided, you know what, this could be a good move for us. A change of environment. Um, we we had a great circle of friends in Germany. We both spoke German back then. We just felt as though moving back into an English speaking environment, even a Northern Irish English speaking environment, could have great benefits for us. So that was the choice that came down
I see.
that we did.
And was that the choice? Was that what affected the PhD part? Is that what halted that part?
Um, not not quite. I just had to make a choice in terms of the only way I could finish it is I had to either commit to doing that full time and leave the industrial side away, or I had to give it up. And I just made that choice that, okay, I do like academics, and I did like teaching. I still do like research. Um, but I just felt at that point in time, going into committing to the industrial route was probably made more sense for me. Yeah. And
And
so there was a bit of moving to Northern Ireland was kind of a natural closing off of that season,
yeah.
of that path. Yeah.
And how easy was it for you to make that choice? Because this reminds me early on in the conversation when chemistry teacher, computer science programmer, and as you mentioned before, it's like, oh, if one came before the other, things might have turned out very differently.
Yeah.
This one, was it more now on you to make the more conscious choices?
Um, I think it again wasn't easy to make that choice, because again I did have this vision of me being a university academic and professor, maybe wearing a bow tie, that sort of stuff. Uh, having loads again, having a lot of things did circulate around having space for writing music and and writing poetry and so on. Um, so I did feel as though I was giving up a, a dream, and a dream that I talked about with various people as well. So other people would have known what I was after. So I did feel as though I was taking this big vision that I had and just dropping it for, again, something that was unknown and unformulated in a
Mm,
sense. Um, but when I did make the choice, it just felt like a relief. Whenever you're faced with two things and you just commit to one, and you convince yourself that I'm just going to pursue that, there is a sense of relief that does come with it. I do think also my my faith had a lot to do with it, where sometimes in life these choices we make, there's no right or wrong, because it's not the ultimate, it's not the definition of who I am, or it's not the ultimate objective I have for my life. My objective is to understand what's God's will, what's his purpose for me, how I can affect the locality that I'm in. And either of those paths that I took, that would still be a constant, right? um, I think that did help a lot with being comfortable with that choice.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. It's that there's not necessarily a right or wrong in every decision. I
Yeah.
mean, like I kind of use the analogy, well, do I like red apples or green apples? Like, I mean, but this
Yeah.
is a significant decision that, as you have said, it's like a dream and a vision.
Yeah.
And at that level, there isn't necessarily a right or wrong because there's a bigger purpose at play.
Yeah.
Because you recognize that in your faith, that it's aligning yourself with God's will.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So yeah, you mentioned music there. So all through this time, you still maintain that. So this was something done on the side as a hobby. Is that how it continued to develop, or did you ever have to lay it down, or was it continuous all the way throughout your career?
I still played a lot of music, especially for church. I would be part of worship, and Germany was great for that as well. It was a chance to actually learn the German language using a medium that I was very familiar and comfortable and happy with, which is music. Um, and music is one of those things that opens doors, that gets you connected. If you hang out with other musicians, there's always that natural conversation and flow and opportunity to meet up. Musicians will always want to meet up with each other and jam and
Mm,
play. So there was always that opportunity. To be honest, in Germany, because I guess there was a heavy cognitive overload of pursuing the PhD, learning German, being in a culture that was unfamiliar, having the other job of working for SAP, just being married and so on. There was a lot of things going on. And when I look back at that time, I actually did not compose. I didn't write anything. I didn't write any music. I just sort of played music. Once I left Germany and moved to Northern Ireland, within 1 year, I'd started writing a whole set of songs and playing a lot more and so on, because I sort of got back my space in my head for doing that. Yeah, so music has always been, I think it's potentially a little bit more than a hobby for me. It's almost a way of expression, a way of it is definitely a passion, where the sort of reward for doing it is doing it.
mm,
It's sort of the way I define it.
mm,
Um, yeah, and it's a way for me to express what I'm feeling, to almost capture that moment, so it weaves into my everyday. So
mm,
isn't so it's there's no music compartment in my life at all.
mm.
I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's in your blood. It's the rhythm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So Northern Ireland, and then how do we get to where you are today? Technology architect in Man.
Okay. So we were in Northern Ireland for 9 years. Both our kids were born in Northern Ireland. So they're
Oh.
Northern Irish kids. So it's a very special place for us. It's where we would have felt as though we really became that family unit. Um, Great church there, great friends. We were part of a choir as well in Northern Ireland, and we we found, coming from the Caribbean, there was something about the Irish personality that fit really well. So we could have seen ourselves settling there, and that was the intent, that we would have just, been happy settling in Belfast and with our friends and the different things we were involved in. Um, I was still with SAP because I had transferred from Germany there with SAP, but then I'd left to, again, I got to that stage of I want to try something out, and so I got an offer from another startup. They were based in the US. Um, it was through a professor, once again a professor I met at a meeting, who saw a presentation I did and just liked the presentation and said, "Hey, you should come work with me." And I said, "Yeah, but I don't want to move to the US. I'd be happy just staying in Belfast." And so she accommodated that. And so I worked for 1 year for this startup as as an analyst and consultant, from my bedroom, which was which was a great year. And it was when our son was born, so I could hang out with him as well. But then, like all startups have a vision of either being bought or, either just, or being a way of learning something. So that came to an end. I was without work for a few weeks, um, and just started exploring, through the CV out even further afield. Um, so now I'm in Manchester, which again was not a plan. So I work for the BBC, and initially when I got an invitation for an interview with them, I had sort of turned it down, because, and not because it was the BBC. I was like blown away. I was like, "Whoa, this would be really cool." But again, I was committed to staying in Northern Ireland, and I was just waiting for the right opportunity to come up there, and that wasn't materializing. Um, so then I was chatting with some some friends of mine in Northern Ireland, and they said, maybe you're trying to make things work here rather than following what God might have in store for you. I said, yeah, that's nice, um, but I'll try it my way. So I had another interview in Northern Ireland that didn't go well, and I just cheekily called up the recruitment from the BBC and said, "Is it okay if I if I come over and have that interview? I could be there on Wednesday." And they said, "Oh yes, of course, come on over." So 2 days before, that was 2 days before the interview. That same night, I went to bed. And this is where it gets very strange. This is the first really bizarre thing that happened to me. I went to bed and I had this dream of a 10-page document on software product lines, and got up the next day, told Nicole about it. I said, "Hey, I had this really strange dream that I've never had before. So I'm just going to spend a day writing it down, what I saw." So I wrote down and tried to remember the diagrams I saw and the thoughts that I had in that dream, and just wrote them down. And I said, this kind of makes sense. It looks like something that I might have been thinking about, but certainly not dreaming about. So anyway, I packed that together and just took it with me to the interview. And it was entitled Software Product Lines and Product Strategy, something like that. And when I got to the interview here in Manchester, they said, "Okay, the first thing you have to do is you have to give us a presentation. And that presentation is on software product lines and product strategy."
Wow.
So that was almost a tap on the shoulder.
Wow.
This is probably where you need to be. And so I just opened up my presentation that I had prepared, and used their materials to present it, and then was able to talk about the subject matter as it was something I was doing all my life. And yeah, I got the offer there
That's
and then.
amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, that is not a subtle tap, is it? That's
No.
pretty solid tap there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not one for, a lot of the mystical side of my faith and Christianity. I do believe in miracles, but having something like that happen to me was a really transforming moment. And moving to Manchester felt as though, yeah, there's something greater. I enjoy my work and enjoy the job I do, but I believe there's a greater purpose for God instrumenting me this move here.
Mm, that's awesome. So having had that kind of clear direction, how have you seen that unfold in your life, in your family's life since you've been here then?
So we've had really, really good um, opportunities. There was a period of time again where life became a little bit remote for me and my family, and that I was initially everyone didn't move over to Manchester, so I was commuting between Manchester and Belfast over a 2-week period. But that also gave me loads of space for writing, right? Um, so I wrote a kids book during that time, during those 3 months because I had weekends where it was just on my own. So that was one thing that came out of it. Since my family's been over, they've also had great experiences. The kids were still quite young, so they were able to. It didn't feel as though they were being snatched from a really tight circle and an established way of living. So they were able to have a family here as well. We've also found good church family as well. That's been great. Um, yeah, I think we're starting to see, ways that we can connect with the community here, ways that we can influence, which are very different to what I would have enjoyed in Northern Ireland. So in Northern Ireland, we were a very small minority of people from the Caribbean, and that ended up being a really positive thing because I felt as though we were just exploding color and cuisine into that space, which isn't the same thing here because Manchester tends to be a bit more of a melting pot of cultures and people and so on. Um, yeah, but there are other areas that are starting to shape up that I can see where um, our voice and our presence is having a positive impact.
It's great. So in those 3 months, Phil, you mentioned that you wrote a kids book.
Yep.
Uh, that was the first one. I mean, before that, your creativity lended itself to writing music and
Yep.
poetry. So what was the inspiration behind a kids book? Because that's very different from your kind of core skill set as being technology based and strategic and programming and all of that stuff.
Very true. Yeah. So the inspiration for writing the kids book came from reading to my daughter. So as I was reading, she was always very keen on like the Disney princess stories. And as I was reading the stories to her, they quite often they would make a reference to the female protagonist as the most beautiful girl in the world. And then when I looked at my daughter, I recognized, the description, the way they're describing the character, and the way they're describing beauty looks nothing like my daughter, who is beautiful. Um, so I felt as though I needed to stop reading those stories because I really got a sense that this could be already planting a seed in her mind of what beauty looks like. So I started searching for other books featuring black characters and which describe them as beautiful. I didn't find any. I didn't find any kids' books um, with black characters, black female characters who were described as beautiful. They're always described as strong, resilient, or they were just stories of activists and overcoming slavery and so on, which of course are important for that period of our heritage. Um, but I wanted something that said to my 5-year-old daughter at that time, "You are beautiful, and here's a description of beauty that looks like you." And I decided, well, if I can't find it, I need to build it. And that was the inspiration for writing that that book.
That's great. And you've written it and it's published. What is the book called?
It's called Nia and the Kingdoms of Celebration. It's available on Amazon and also in 2 bookstores, in New Beacon Bookstore in London, as well as a bookstore back in Barbados as well.
Brilliant. So is that is that a one-off?
Hopefully not. I do have, um, to be honest, Andy, I'm strange. I'm strangely very organized. Surprisingly, I never thought I was a very organized person until I started to tell other people what I do and show them my filing system. Then I recognize, oh, I'm actually pretty organized. So I have the entire series planned out and structured for that, for the Princess Nia stories and the Kingdoms of Celebration. But I also have a whole set of other books, some for children, but also for adults, planned and structured. And I guess the only thing now is I'm quite organized with regards to putting plans down. The Where I struggle is time, putting the time to, I can till the soil, but to actually plant the seeds now and lay them out is where I need to carve out the time to do that.
Sure, sure. But that's really exciting, though. And it was the fact that you came to Manchester alone for that initial period that offered you the space to start this.
Absolutely, yeah. Which, when I look back at it, I'm like, wow, that is very true. It, I don't know if I, because I was talking about that book for about 2 years before that, but it was only when I got that space, and even coming here is, I'll just tell you one more story about coming here. Before I moved, I knew I needed a space to stay, a place to stay. So I went to spareroom.co.uk and lodged my interest as music, books, and faith. And within 1 hour, this couple comes back and says, "Hey, your interests match our interests, and we'd like to meet with you." And I met with them, and they're a lovely couple, and we're still friends to this day. Um, but in their house, they also had it's quite a big house, and they had a large grand piano,
Oh
and
wow.
and they were away for quite a bit of time. So I had that entire space, the grand piano, um, just for me to create.
That's amazing. I
Yeah,
mean, you're
so
talking about a grand piano. You're not talking an
uh,
that's a
yeah, not just an upright or just an electronic, a proper grand piano. So it was really, as much as it meant, again, it was away from my family. That space became really, really precious, and I'm so pleased I was able to use it
mm,
effectively for doing that work.
that's really cool, Phil. Thank you for sharing that. I have two questions left for you. One is, um, with your experience and expertise and passion in these different areas, um, how do you see them fitting together?
Mm-hmm.
Technology, education, and how this affects society or influences society.
Yeah, so I do have a passion for each of those areas for technology. I love technology, but these days I don't refer to myself as a techie anymore. Because I'm not that hands on in terms of building software and systems anymore. but um, I do think when we start from a point of value, what's the value to humanity, and work backwards, that that starts to show the way that technology should really be applied. So something I've recognized is we always look at people and say, oh, they're addicted to their phones, or kids are addicted to games and so on. But I don't think that's really the case. I think human beings, we want to be connected to each other. We want to be connected to the world. We want to be informed. We want to know what's going on around us, and we want to feel valued. And those three things, and valued could be feeling entertained, feeling enlightened, or feeling liked as well. And all that's happening is technology is providing a medium for fulfilling those three needs of being informed, being connected, and feeling valued. So my real interest in that space is, even without if technology is there or not, how can I ensure that people feel adequately informed, that I can be connected, and that my circle can feel valued. And then I can look at technology and see how does technology play a role in augmenting the possibility for people to feel valued when they're feeling down, to feel informed with it when they feel uninformed, and informed in a correct way. There's loads of fake information going around as well, but then also feeling connected. And even with connection, I think we have to be careful, because although there is value in this super connected world that we live in, sometimes that can be overwhelming, and we can have too many connections, and too many things to care about, and that can distract us from being focused on our on relationships where we can actually have a greater impact. We like right now I have over 900 Facebook friends, but only over time I probably engage with 10 to 20 of them, in a meaningful way. But does that mean I'm having less impact? Maybe not. It could be that by focusing on those smaller networks and those smaller connections, they then propagate out in a more meaningful way, because we spent more time on those smaller connections.
Mm.
Yeah. So those are things I think about, in terms of, and how I mesh together um, technology. A lot of my music is also influenced by that thinking as well, where a lot of my music would be about community and trying to um, inject a sense of value into people's life, and also education as well. Um, Coming here, I managed to be now on the board of governors for at my kids' school, and that's really special to be involved in the school, in terms of helping to set vision and discussing vision, and a lot of it is about ensuring that kids feel valued. What's the information that we give kids, but also to parents as well, and how do we make use of connection,
Mm.
to community, to other facilities and public services, and so on.
Mm. So if I'm hearing right, Phil, it's a case of first understanding what it is that humans need,
Yeah,
the value, the connectedness,
yeah,
relationship, and then seeing technology as something to embrace, like as a tool.
as a tool. Yeah,
But so that's the meshing together and integrating technology in such a way that we still maintain like or meet human needs.
exactly. Yeah, so get excited about people first, and then get excited about what technology can do for
Mm.
people, as
Mm.
opposed to the other way around. I think when we do it the other way around, get excited about technology and then try to enforce it on people and sell it in clever ways, I think that's when it becomes harmful.
Mm. And is that a danger? Is that happening
I
in
think it
your?
is a danger if we look at machine learning at the moment. We're not at a stage with machine learning where a lot of the hard problems are solved, um, and there's so much we can do, but it can become dangerous. If you look at automated cars or autonomous vehicles, if we constantly push and just focus on this is cool that these vehicles can drive themselves, as opposed to stopping and saying, well, what's the real human need? Do humans really, really, really need to have autonomous vehicles that can cause accidents, that can kill people, that can make people less aware of each other on the road? Though I think those are some of the risks that come out of it as well. Intrusions into privacy could be another thing if we take our eyes off of the people factor and focus too much on the technology and the way and the amount of information that we can process very quickly and learn from. I do think those risks exist, and what has to drive the ethics of the way technology is employed is the focus on humanity and human value.
Mm, I like that. That's a really strong point because you're almost saying that out there's technology being pursued for technology's sake, like just pushing the boundaries of technology.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that we do because we can do it, but
Mm,
all things are permissible, but not everything is beneficial, right?
mm,
And that's something that drives me a lot when I think about technology. What's beneficial? Sure, we can take these terabytes of data and train this algorithm, but what's the benefit? If there's no
mm.
benefit, why are we doing it?
Yeah, yeah. What's the meaning? How does it serve
Yeah,
humanity?
humanity. Yeah,
And sometimes it's like the way you put it. If you do it the wrong way round, you're just looking for some justification that it serves humanity to
yeah,
then.
because it's cool. It's your you spent your time doing it. Um, it's wonderful that it works. It would be great if I had a robot that could make my coffee and walk up the stairs. um, but if we start from this is great that technology can do this as opposed to what are the human needs, then I think it always it always creates a context of harming humanity.
Mm, it's good. No, it's a very good question to be asking, to be alert to, because you could instantly think, well, a robot that can make me coffee and bring it up to me in bed, that's good. Like
Yeah.
it's obviously that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But it's
Actually, it is. Yes.
but then at the same time, you have to like ask the deeper questions: is
Yeah.
good how, good by what definition?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and that process of getting up and going downstairs and smelling the coffee brewing. Do I really want to dismiss all of that
Mm,
just for that luxury of it being brought to me?
mm,
And I think society we sometimes make a lot of decisions based on economy and efficiency and forget the wider picture of enjoyment and community and togetherness. Things that um, are encroached upon by progress sometimes, and we have to be very careful with what metrics we apply to what's beneficial and what represents progress in society.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
great. Thank you, Phil. One last question before we leave.
Yeah.
How do you intend to increase your impact going forward?
Um, I like that question because that's all I've been thinking about while I was on holiday. I've been reading a book. Um, it's quite a subject matter book. It's technology strategy patterns I've been reading, which is looking at different ways of applying technology strategy. I've been trying to think of what's my way of doing that. I think that the formula that's come to mind is thinking of three things: humility, community, and dignity. So I'll explain those three things. Humility is ensuring that any situation I get into when I'm meeting with leadership. So the overall thing is that I need to meet with leadership a bit more. That I remain humble, even if I think I have better ideas or better insights. I'm not trying to use that and lord that over anyone. The community aspect is in any situation, try to create relationship and make that the objective. And then dignity is about myself then being satisfied with the skills and the knowledge and the experience I have and not feeling like an imposter. So I think that's how I want, that's what I've been, I think that's the way that I can increase my impact going forward, being humble, seeking after community, and being satisfied that what I've been enabled to do and learn and acquire is good.
That's great. Phil, thank you so much. And, it's really enjoyed this conversation and finding out about, what you've been through, the decisions that you've made. It's an honor to call you my friend, and we should.
Same. Yes.
Soon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for your time, Phil. You take care.
Thank you. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.